Yo, what is going on, guys? Flashverse here, and welcome back to another video on The Flash Season 7. And today's video will be another theory video, and this is in regards to the original timeline Wells and the mystery behind this character, and whether or not will he have some sort of a connection with the whole Forces storyline, which will be playing out during the first half of this season. So yeah, as the overall storyline for this season, we are exploring the four forces in that we find out the Speed Force is not the only cosmic source of energy out there in the multiverse, but there are others, in which during the end of episode 5, we heard the Speed Force say, "I think they are just like me," when obviously referring to both Psyche and Fuerza, in which they are also godlike beings which are the embodiments of the force which they possess. And these forces being the Strength Force, that being the one Fuerza uses, the Sage Force, the one being that Psyche uses, the Speed Force, obviously the one which our speedsters use, and the embodiment for that is obviously Nora Allen, and the one which we'll be seeing in tonight's episode, the Still Force. Now, whether or not will we get these forces being named as the Sage Force, as the Strength Force, and whatever, I'm not sure about that, especially for the coming episode. But as of the time I'm recording this video, episode 6 has not aired yet, so if they have named the forces, that is why I haven't mentioned it during this video. But while this storyline is currently some sort of a mystery which will be revealed as more episodes progress, but if you guys obviously watch us as the DC TV YouTubers, then you guys would probably have more of an understanding to what is going on. We should be expecting more twists and reveals coming. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I didn't buy the whole Wells thing during episode 3. I think there will be a bigger thing going on with his character, and how this could have some sort of a connection with this Force storyline going into the first half of the season. But as I have been saying from my previous theory videos, this is just a theory video, so please don't take what I'm going to say as a way to get excited, even if the theory could possibly make sense, because there's a chance that I am wrong, in which it's highly likely that I am, and I don't want to be the reason for you guys getting disappointed because the outcome didn't turn out the way I may have theorized about, in which that specific theory ended up getting you guys excited, and then at the end of the day maybe that didn't end up being the case. So please don't use this theory as a way to get excited, because if the outcome is different, I don't want you guys to be disappointed. I still want you guys to enjoy the show as much as you can. And this doesn't apply for just this one video, it applies for all of my theory videos which I will be doing, and I'll keep giving these theory warnings whenever I do theory videos, because since the backlash of WandaVision started due to these theories hyping people up way too much to a point where they get so hyped up because they think that this theory will end up happening, and then eventually get disappointed based on that theory because it didn't turn out that way. I don't want that happening for you guys. I want you guys to enjoy this show as much as possible, regardless of what the outcome is. But before I go over anything, however, you guys don't forget to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel so you are aware of more Arrowverse content coming your way. So yeah, during episode 3 of The Flash season 7, we obviously got introduced to the original timeline Wells, and the way he returned and came back to life was by Nash Wells giving his life to power the fusion sphere in order to get the artificial Speed Force to work. And while that was happening, he was able to transfer all the multiversal particles of all the Wellses onto that fusion sphere, except for that 0.1%, which was the original timeline Wells. And when Nash, alongside the other versions of Wells, were removed from the timeline, the universe required a balancing act in which one Wells, that being that 0.1% Wells, ended up being the remaining Wells left. So that is obviously the original timeline Wells. And Crisis, as Barry explained during that scene when Wells returned, took people from other Earths and brought them all onto Earth Prime in one timeline, causing a temporal coalescence basically, resulting into one Wells being there, bringing back the original timeline Wells. And this version of Wells still has the remaining memories of the other Wells, despite him being the only Wells alive. But as we saw during the episode, the original timeline Wells helped Team Flash get Barry's speed back, and he helped Barry to revive the original Speed Force as well. And as we saw during the ending scene of episode 3, we had that big artificial Speed Force machine charging up with original Speed Force lightning, and that basically goes everywhere across Star Labs. And although this brought back the original Speed Force and gave Barry his speed back, some of the lightning went outside the building up to the sky and bonded with something, freeing the other forces during the process. And then during episodes 4 and 5, we had this cliffhanger unfold where we saw these geothermal isotope readings appearing anytime a Force user was nearby, in which during episode 4 we saw Fuerza, the user of the Strength Force, and in episode 5 we saw Psyche, the user of the Sage Force, and then in tonight's episode we will obviously be seeing the Still Force. And earlier on during the same scene, during episode 3, while this plan in getting Barry's speed back was being executed, loads of people, including myself, were all suspicious from that one scene we saw Wells have, in which once he saw the lightning going upwards into the sky, we saw Wells looking at something. And he looked at it with curiosity, almost like he either knew what was going to happen and what was going on, or he had some interest on what was going on. But I think he clearly saw what was happening. He saw these different lightning colors scattering across the city, but he chose to ignore it. And he was the only one which saw this. Nobody else in Team Flash were seeing this because they focused on Barry getting his speed back. So my theory over here is that Wells knew what was going on. At the end of the day, this version of Wells does have the memories of the other versions of Wells. So he does have an understanding of the Speed Force. And maybe he already knew these different forces were existing, but maybe the Speed Force was preventing it from breaking free from like a force barrier or something, because something like that does happen in the comics. So in the comics, basically, Hunter Zolomon, that being Zoom, found out that the Speed Force was not the only cosmic force out there in the multiverse, and he wanted to harness these other forces. And essentially, the reason to why nobody knew about these forces is because there was a force barrier preventing the Sage Force, the Strength Force, and the Still Force from being out there. But Zoom was able to trick Barry and Wally into running so fast where they basically broke that barrier, releasing the other forces. So what if the same thing is going on over here, where Wells already knew about these forces and its existence, and this experiment in getting Barry's speed back resulted into this force barrier from breaking, and the fact that he actually looked and saw what was going on is kind of further evidence that he actually knew what was going on. Now, during the end of the episode, that being episode 3, we find out that Wells has this ability to travel to any point in time, and he basically calls himself Timeless Wells. Now, Timeless Wells says he is going to go back in time and relive his best memories that he's had with Tess Morgan over and over again. Pretty much live his whole relationship over and over again with Tess Morgan. But when you think about it, doesn't that seem like torture? Because you spend your moments with this girl and they may be happy moments at the end of the day and you may really enjoy them. But then you will see her die again and again and again, and there's nothing you can do about it because it will obviously disrupt the timeline if you interfere with what's going on. So I think what he said in regards to him reliving the moment with Tess Morgan was a lie. I think what he was going to do was that he's going to investigate these different forces. Now, as I said, the fact that he looked and seemed like he was intrigued by what was happening while Barry was getting his speed back seemed like he knew what was going on. And if he knew what was happening, I think he would want to see what was actually going on and what is these forces doing. So maybe he has been investigating these forces after he obviously left during the events of episode 3. So he uses his timeless powers to travel into these different points in time, and he basically further investigates these different forces and basically gets a better understanding to what they are, because he had the theory that they existed before, and now that he actually saw it with his own eyes while Barry was getting his speed back, he was able to prove more of these forces exist. So maybe we don't see him have this theory yet, but maybe he explains it later on. So with this investigation, maybe he could find some weaknesses for these forces to help Barry stop them, because they're pretty damn overpowered. As we saw, both Psyche and Fuerza, they were both able to absorb Barry's lightning like it was nothing. And Fuerza, she was able to absorb an antimatter bomb, so she is so overpowered. And Psyche is overpowered as well, and you could guess that the user of the Steel Force would be overpowered as well, since they are godlike beings, which are the embodiments of the forces which they possess. So they will need to find out these weaknesses which will help stop them, and this could be where Timeless Wells comes in. We do know that episode 9 of the season is titled Timeless, which is a reference to Timeless Wells. So this would be the episode where he returns. So maybe over here he tells Team Flash what's going on with these different forces, and he reveals what he has been doing. And the thing about this is, this episode is 2 episodes before the finale for graphic novel number 3. So maybe episode 9 we have Wells return and he reveals what he has been doing, and episode 10 and 11 they work on stopping these forces, or whoever the main villain of the season is. Who knows? But yeah, that was just the theory I had which I wanted to share with you guys. Be sure to tell me in the comment section down below what you guys think about it. But yeah guys, thanks for watching. If you guys have enjoyed the video, please give a like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in my next video.